We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Weed Talk News. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media.
And I'm Curt Dalton, the founder of Cannabis.net.
This is our weekly look at the variety of news stories regarding the cannabis industry in the U.S. and around the world. And this week, we've got the Republican National Convention to talk about here, California wildfires wiping out acres of cannabis grows, and a sad Polish elephant is about to get an injection of CBD for her depression.
Well, you know, there's also bigger news where our POTUS is asking his challenger to take a drug test. Now, Jimmy, let me ask you, is Sleepy Joe sleepy for a reason we should be testing for? What's your take on this?
I think it's much ado about nothing, which is pretty much what comes out of you-know-whose mouth pretty much every time. He used this same tactic in 2016 when Hillary ran. And it just shows that I think President Trump is a little worried that Joe Biden actually had some passion during the Democratic National Convention with his speech. And I like the fact that he's calling for some kind of a test because he thinks Joe is now awakened to the challenge.
That could be. Another big news is we have the alcohol industry is now worried about cannabis-infused drinks. If you're a follower of Cannabis.net, you know that we're not big believers in this based on the fact, well, if you mix alcohol with cannabis, what effect are you trying to get? Are you trying to get buzzed on alcohol? Are you trying to get high? One is actually a depressant and one elevates you. But that's our opinion. Jimmy, you have another opinion. What's your opinion on cannabis-infused beverages coming into the future?
If they can figure out a way to mix it and maintain the buzz that you do get with that 8-time catalyst of alcohol in addition to cannabis, then maybe it does work. But again, you're right, Curt. One's an upper, one's a downer. It's all about maintenance and trying to use cannabis in a responsible way. So I personally am willing to try a cannabis-infused drink if I was offered it. Is that all right?
I think it's fine. Everyone should try it. I just wonder if it's going to be mixed with alcohol. I think the alcohol combo is a head fake. I think investors are going to lose money on that. But yes, there are cannabis beverages out in legal states, Colorado, California. You can get them, walk into a dispensary here in Massachusetts and get them. But again, they make up such a small sales percentage, even in Colorado and California. I don't see where the big explosion is nationally if we ever got legalization, where people would walk into a store and choose a beverage over, say, the other 10 products.
Well, I'll tell you what, the Cannabis Beverage Association, the Cannabis Beverage Association, is now estimated to make $4 billion by 2024. So as you can expect, there is some money in this. So let's go to our reporter in Canada, Solomon Israel, for the Canada Cannabis Report. Solomon?
I'm Solomon Israel from Marijuana Business Daily International, and this is the Weed Talk News Canadian Cannabis Report. Marijuana producer Hexo and brewer Molson Coors have launched new cannabis beverages under their Truss Beverage brand. That marks new competition in Canada's young cannabis beverage market, which has attracted significant media interest. Recent data shows the market share of beverages and edibles remains small in key Canadian markets. On Canada's Atlantic coast, the province of Nova Scotia plans to double its cannabis store count in the face of sluggish sales. Sales declined on a quarterly basis in the quarter ended June 28th as COVID-19 hurt store attendance. The province already has opened the first of 14 new stores, which will mostly be located inside government-run liquor stores. And the province of New Brunswick is kicking the can on a decision to privatize its marijuana retailers. The province has 20 government-owned cannabis stores and has issued an RFP for a private sector operator to take them over. But with a provincial election coming in September, the final decision will be left to New Brunswick's next government. You can read those stories and more at MJBIZdaily.com. I'm Solomon Israel from Marijuana Business Daily.
2-1. Here's this week's Marijuana 2020 factoid from MJBIZ Daily's annual Book of Facts. Did you know the U.S. has 3 times the medical dispensaries than adult use recreational dispensaries? No, I didn't think so. Okay, Even with that advantage, rec sales are expected to be 30% higher than med sales in the United States in 2020. Legal adult use sales are expected to be $10 billion and med sales between 5.8 and 8.1 billion. Just one of the many facts in Marijuana Business Daily's fact book, and you can get that at mjbizdaily.com. The state of Nebraska got enough signatures to add legalization to a medical cannabis program initiative on that November ballot. However, it wasn't easy. Not only did COVID force organizers to go door to door during the pandemic shutdown, but now they will face a legal challenge in court in Nebraska about the question's clarity. Now, if this sounds familiar, the same challenge was thrown out by a judge in Arizona a few weeks ago. Curt, is this deja vu all over again?
Yes, Jimmy, you're right. It will get thrown out. And as we say, history rhymes. It doesn't repeat. When a state like Oklahoma opens up 2,000 dispensaries and grow licenses and starts getting everyone from the surrounding states, kind of like when Colorado did it 6 or 8 years ago, everybody else wants to get some of that tax revenue. So you can certainly expect Nebraska, whether they're for or against cannabis, they are for tax revenue. And when half their population is going across the Red River to get some marijuana, they're going to allow it, at least on the medical side, and they're going to start getting some tax revenue, yes.
All right, so Nebraska joined 6 other states voting on either legalization for adult use or introduction of medicinal cannabis programs. And even in Mississippi, they will be voting on that. Speaking of voting, let's go down to Phil Adams from the Vote Pro podcast for our DC report. Phil?
Hi, Phil Adams from Vote Pro Podcast, here with the Weed Talk News DC report. It's the Republicans' turn for their convention this week, and the GOP is already making their policy clear. They are not planning to address cannabis reform in 2020. Republican National Committee Chair Ronna McDaniel said this week that cannabis legalization should be addressed at the state level. In an interview with Gre TV News, McDaniel said, quote, "That's not something that the RNC puts forward as policy. That's going to be left up to the states and our legislators." A recent Gallup survey showed that a significant majority of Republican voters now support legalization. President Trump has said that he supports states' rights to set their own cannabis policies. On the other side of the aisle, California Congresswoman Barbara Lee gave the Democratic ticket mixed reviews on their cannabis policy. While praising Vice Presidential nominee Kamala Harris for her support of legalization, Lee, who is the co-chair of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus, also lamented the fact that Joe Biden's policy falls short. Biden and his party platform favor decriminalization. The Congresswoman expressed confidence in her party's platform, however, saying, quote, "Just as President Obama evolved around marriage equality, Joe Biden's going to have to evolve around legalization." California Senator Cory Gardner is asking the Department of Agriculture to hold off implementation of its rules governing the U.S. hemp industry. In a letter to Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue, Gardner and several of his colleagues called on the USDA to delay the final rule pending consultation with state regulators, quote, "to encourage greater flexibility for farmers and encourage innovation of the industry." Earlier this month, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer sent a similar letter to Perdue asking to delay implementation until 2022. That's the Weed Talk News DC report for this week. I'm Phil Adams from Vote Pro Podcast.
Out in California, those wildfires are wreaking havoc on some of the legal cannabis farms in Sonoma County. Just south of San Francisco is Santa Cruz County, and there is a medicinal farm there called Wham Phytotherapies that had been evacuated. Now, other farms like Sweet Creek and Preferred Gardens west of Sacramento have sustained devastating damage as hundreds of thousands of cannabis crops have been burned down. So once again, Mother Nature not being gentle on those California farms. Curt?
It's too bad we can't take some of the water from the hurricane in Louisiana and transfer it quickly over to California, and everybody's a winner then. So fortunately, it doesn't work that way. Some of the growers had problems with the wildfires last year. And it's just a tricky situation because it's hard to get insurance for certain types of crops, even in California, including cannabis. So hopefully they can get those under control.
That's what they want, is an under control situation. And out of Pennsylvania now, there's some positive news for cannabis advocates. Their governor, Tom Wolf, is asking his legislature to legalize cannabis in order to boost economic relief during the pandemic. He's floating the idea of state-run stores. And even in Vermont, their attempt to launch a retail market in the state has hit a bit of a snag. Curt, it's the only state that legalized possession of 1 ounce of cannabis or under, but hasn't introduced an adult use retail program. Politics and weed banging heads again.
Yeah, that's why I'm a big fan of the plan that the governor of Pennsylvania had. I don't like the idea of state-run stores. I don't think that's ever been a success in many retail areas. But you are seeing more, mergers and acquisition. People are expanding their footprints, just like we talked about last week with Curaleaf. And guess what? There's more mergers and acquisitions to report. Let's go to Debra Borchardt with the latest in the cannabis industry for mergers and acquisitions.
Thanks, Curt. Thanks, Jimmy. This week, Columbia Care said it was going to buy the Green Solution in an all-stock deal that's expected to close on September 1st. The Colorado-based TGS is said to have unaudited revenue through July 2020 of $57.6 million. Columbia Care said the deal would be immediately accretive. Tilt Holdings reported that its revenue fell 9% sequentially to $38.6 million. The company blamed the decline on COVID-related headwinds that included decreased sales at its vape subsidiary, Jupiter Research, and also lower wholesale demand in the cannabis sector due to the temporary suspension of adult use sales in Massachusetts. And finally, MindMed said that it is working with the University Hospital Basel Lecti Lab on a combination MDMA and LSD phase 1 clinical trial. Now, the phase 1 trial is expected to start in the 4th quarter of this year, and it will take place in Basel, Switzerland. They're studying whether MDMA will reduce the potential for a bad trip when someone's having an LSD treatment. That's it for this week. I'm Debra Borchardt with the Gre.en Market Report for Weed Talk News.
There may not be a medicinal marijuana program in the country of Poland, but veterinarians there have a sad elephant who lost the leader of its herd, Erna. It seems Fredzia, the elephant, is suffering from distress and depression because of that loss. So vets will be giving her an elephant-sized dose of CBD with the hopes that will improve Fredzia's mood. Curt, you just can't make this stuff up now, can you?
I just want to see the video of the size of the bale of hemp that elephant is going to consume, probably the size of a small Volkswagen. And then as everyone just watches and keeps their notebooks open to see what happens. So it's great if we know the research on CBD in animals, especially with anxiety and some distress, has been great. So let's see what it does to a pachyderm the size of a small trailer. Let's see what happens.
Or the size of a vending machine, right?
We do have vending machines now. Let's talk about the COVID adjustments, not only curbside, but new vending machines for cannabis appearing in Colorado at Strawberry Fields Dispensary, right, Jimmy?
That is it, Curt, and that will do it for Weed Talk News for this week. I'm Jimmy Young from Pro Cannabis Media.
And I'm Curt Dalton with Cannabis.net.
It's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
Weed Talk Now, Weed Talk News, and In the Weeds are all available on most major podcast distributors like iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and our friends at clnsmedia.com and our flagship, Cannabis.net. So subscribe, share, and like our videos on all the social media networks out there, including LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the WeedTube, and YouTube. Weed Talk and In the Weeds are two productions of Pro Cannabis Media supported by Revolutionary Clinics, one of the top medical cannabis dispensaries in the Massachusetts area, now with 3 locations in Greater Boston, 2 in Cambridge, and 1 on Broadway in Somerville. Rev Clinics has a patient-first mission. They will customize your needs as a medical patient with the proper titration and combination of strains, flavors, and products. Rev Clinics, where the patient comes first.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.